We've had budget deficit issues. We've had attacks by international terrorists. We've had domestic terror, pandemics, school shootings. You can go on and on and on.
Over the past decade, as you well know, we have seen a major divide among Americans as it relates to politics, views leaning far down both aisles, public outrage with government, hostile social media platforms. Good evening, I'm Sean Owsley. Tonight, in-depth 360 coverage, the divided states of America. Glad you're with us tonight. Obviously, it is a conversation that happens each and every day. You've certainly seen this growing division on television, in newspapers, other social media, but you've probably also seen it firsthand. Now, Stop Local's John Webb joining us live now in studio. And John, something that unfortunately we are seeing more and more of each and every day, but somebody looked at it in depth. You have that story.
Right, exactly, becoming polarizing, and we're not seeing it not only on the national level, we're seeing it right here at home too. When I was in college down at the University of Idaho, we had a class, and one of the WSU professors came and spoke to us on his findings about how American politics went crazy.
Over the last at least decade or so, I've been kind of shocked at what's going on in our politics, and as somebody who studies American politics, I really felt a deep need to try and piece together.
A big challenge, but one Stephen Stehr was up for. Through his research, he discovered there were several factors that put America in the shoes it's in today.
You know, there are high-profile things like the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, the terrorist attacks of 9/11, the pandemic.
Wages being stagnant for the last 50 years. The list goes on and on. But one issue that Stehr says highlights this partisan behavior are the communities in which we isolate ourselves in.
There's a lot of evidence we're sorting into like-minded political communities, signaling that we want to be around people that we agree with.
He says people now more than ever tend to bond with their in-group, and most importantly, they tend to have more animosity toward their out-group.
It's not about policy. It's about hating the other side, because each side sees the other as an existential threat.
So many factors coming into play in a split society. This disassembly seems so fresh to Americans. In reality, it's not. Professor Stehr says we've seen polarizing times in America during the turn of the 20th century.
This was a time of large income inequality, rapid technological change, fear of immigrants, very polarized electorate, very close elections at the presidential level.
Sound familiar? Yeah, we're pretty close to society nearly 150 years ago. How did we change? Or a better question might be, how did we become civil?
In the progressive reform movement, where a very diverse group, a coalition of diverse groups came together to demand changes to the way we governed ourselves.
Stehr also citing the Great Depression as a breaking point for the divide. People facing the same challenge together.
I was kind of thinking that maybe the pandemic would act as a focusing event, and it didn't.
Which leaves us where we're at today, even more divided. But how do we extinguish that divide? As you can imagine, it's not an overnight fix.
There's a lot of evidence that the sort of anger in politics is being driven by people 40 years old and older. So there might be a generational change. I talked about focusing events, things like big wars tend to bring people together. Not a civil war, but a war against China or Russia or some foreign adversary. China looks to be the most likely one at this point. But I mean, that's a pretty high price to pay to try and bring society together. But I really think modeling good behavior will go a long way.
Behavior that could save the future of our country. Behavior we once saw as Americans, working together for one nation and offering the shirts off our backs for one another. America that people once knew.
It's going to be difficult. And it can't be just one thing that drives things home. It's got to be, I think, a number of people saying that enough is enough.
Absolutely. Sean Stehr will be giving his presentation on this matter at the Spokane Public Library. That's happening March 30th at 6 o'clock. Really fascinating stuff there. And what shocked me the most was the fact that we would have to get to the point of going to war to be civilized in America.
Well, I find the context and the history and how he related those two to really stand out, because these are conversations that are happening at the dinner table, amongst family, friends, some divided, some frustrated with each other. How does it reconcile, or does it? I think that's the key question.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. John Webb reporting live. Good to have you in studio, by the way.
Thank you.
All right.
Good to see you.